right, race fans, Ryan Aho and the one and only Burt Layman. Burt, how you doing?
Doing good. A little exhausted. I've been one of Santa's little elves the last couple of weeks at work. We run a Toys for Tots program, so I've been. It's a very good cause, and I'm not complaining. But it's surprising how exhausting it can be. Collecting toys, counting toys, sorting toys, and delivering toys.
So you're saying kids can be exhausting even if they're not yours? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
So what we need to do is we need to get a whole bunch of die-cast race cars, the little ones. What are they? 164th or 128th? Yeah, we need to get a bunch to the little kids for Christmas next year. Is what we need to do. So, I mean, if we're going to get them toys, we got to get them good toys, right? That'd be race cars.
Well, unfortunately, the dirt late model 164 cars sell for like $20 to $30 a piece. So those are expensive little toys.
With all your money, I figured you'd probably buy 300-400 of them next year. Thanks a lot, Burt. We appreciate that for sure. So episode number 110, of course, brought to you by our friends over in Watertown, South Dakota, Dirt Track Supply. Ron and Trevor do a great job over there. They service a lot of racetracks. They sell parts. I mean, if you need it, you can get it from them. If they don't have it on hand, they can order it. And of course, they fix everything too. So no matter what chassis you have, you can bring it in there to get work done, get fabbing stuff done, get bodies done. And if you're looking for a new chassis, they're the home of the Aero chassis. And that Aero chassis has won a ton of races throughout Wissota land. So give them a call, Dirt Track Supply over in Watertown. So what do you say, Burt? Let's start with, let's have a little fun. Let's start with a blast to the past, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. Of course, open enrollment is done, but you can jump on board anytime. If you're paying too much for healthcare, get a hold of me. I can give you a quick quote. Been literally cutting in half, Burt. I never realized how much people paid, but it's about half price of like a typical Blue Cross plan. So if you're paying too much on healthcare and need more money to spend on the race car, get a hold of me. Maybe I can help you out. So I know you have a few. I'm going to start with this. I'm going to kind of, we don't have Puka on here, so we can't do trivia. You'd actually win this week, even though he's not here, right? But I'll start with this. 1980 Labor Day Shootout winner at the Hibbing Raceway in the late model division.
1980. Did Parker win that?
He did win that. I'm like, come on, there's only one number. That'd be the only one that you can think of that would actually make sense here. So I remember, Pete Parker coming over for many years over, and boy, that guy won a pile of races. I'll let you, of course, talk more about him. But as a fan growing up, I mean, he come over. He was really, really good in the 80s. I remember seeing him at Cedar Lake, and the one thing that sticks out to me to this day. Truly was not even his racing, it was his trailers, right? The reliable welding, they call it the Parker trailer. Anybody that's an old diehard race fan, it was the first one to really have the big, triple or I guess 5 tire rack or whatever. They had a bunch of them and kind of a ramp over deal. I mean, amazing trailers. And if more drivers had those today, Burt, there'd be a lot more fans going, ooh, look at that race car going down the road. So that's what I remember. Parker, but I know you have some stories.
And the thing with Pete Parker is even after enclosed trailers became the in thing, he still traveled all over the country with that open trailer. He was, I never talked to him about it, but he seemed to be resistant to the enclosed trailers. But I guess when kind of your livelihood depends on building those open trailers, that could be part of the reason why. But yeah,
do that. There might be. What do you remember about Pete? What do you remember about him? I know you pitted for MJ, right? And you guys probably had a lot of battles. Let me ask you this. Is there a specific battle that really sticks out that you remember between MJ and, of course, Pete Parker?
Not necessarily a specific battle. I do remember there was a race. It was the first time Shawano Speedway ran a Midsummer Classic event, and Parker was leading the feature, and MJ passed him. It was later in the race when MJ passed him. Obviously that, we enjoyed that on MJ's team. I don't remember any really good battles between them other than, there's some pretty good points battles. One thing I remember about Pete Parker was, he did win some track championships, but racing for points wasn't necessarily what he focused on. I do believe he would have won many more track championships at Shawano Speedway if he would have concentrated on racing local. But he seemed to, he enjoyed traveling. And one thing I remember about him was if a show got rained out somewhere where he was racing at, or even if he was racing in a different state, he would travel back to Shawano. And there were times when he would pull in during intermission and just race the feature. The races would be going on, and this was when everybody parked in the infield at Shawano Speedway. The races would be going on, and all of a sudden you'd see the pickup truck with the open trailer with Parker's car on it waiting to cross the track because he was getting there at intermission. And there were times when he'd get there at intermission and he'd win the feature, even though he had to start in the back of the feature. So, by far you can argue that he's the best to come out of Eastern Wisconsin. So,
and looking back at it, Bert, 97 and 98, he was the WISSOTA late model national champion. And as a race fan, as a WISSOTA fan, WISSOTA racing's been kind of in my wheelhouse ever since I've been an adult. And looking back at the history of WISSOTA with those drivers in Eastern Wisconsin, of course, now we'll talk about that more later. They got a big announcement with the Dirt Kings. No more WISSOTA over there in Eastern Wisconsin, which is really too bad because, as a fan growing up, I used to love them guys, whether it was MJ or Pete Parker making their trips over, but you don't see that anymore because of that. So kind of miss that. And what year was he in the Hall of Fame, Bert? Do you remember?
What's that?
What year did he get inducted to the Hall of Fame, the Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame? It was 05, 06, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think.
I don't know if it was even that long ago. I think it was more recent than that.
Well,
I could be wrong on that.
We'll have to get Joe's book, right? That 5-10-32 book.
Yeah, it's actually upstairs. I could run upstairs and get it because it is listed in there. But another thing about Pete Parker, if I'm not mistaken, he won the first ever WISSOTA 100.
Boy, that's interesting. I did not know that. That would be there's a trivia. So fans, do some research on this, because I don't even know where I could honestly find a list of all the WISSOTA 100 winners. I don't know. Maybe it's on the WISSOTA website. It might be WISSOTA.org. In fact, maybe I'll look that up.
That was when the WISSOTA 100 was at Marshfield, at the dirt track in Marshfield.
Okay. WISSOTA Events, Challenge Series, WISSOTA 100. I'll look at that. So I know you have three more. While I'm looking at this, you have a few more number 10s from over your neck of the woods. Why don't you touch a little bit on those drivers and maybe what sticks out to you, maybe a good memory on them?
My next driver, I really didn't see him race a whole lot. Because he raced most of his career down at a Hales Corner Speedway down by Milwaukee. But George Scheffler, the father of Russ Scheffler and Rick Scheffler, and there's quite a family tree of racing that started with, well, actually, I shouldn't say it started with George Scheffler because I don't know, maybe somebody before him raced too. But unfortunately, he passed away way too soon, and the Scheffler family had a memorial race for him for several years. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. And my third driver, I'm going to say John Guthol. I'm sure not many, if anybody that's listening to this, unless you're from this side of the state, is familiar with John Guthol, but he raced the Sportsman late model at Shawano Speedway back in the 1990s. And the reason I bring him up is because he is from my hometown of Tigerton, Wisconsin. So, nice. So he's from my hometown, so I have to mention him. He was actually he was another one that was a police officer and then also raced. So, you know, one of the racing law enforcement people. And my fourth person on my list is IMCA stock car driver, but arguably, you know, the best IMCA stock car driver from Eastern Wisconsin, and that would be Hot Rod Schnellenberger. He won the IMCA National Championship in the stock car division at least one time. I want to say 2013, but I'm not exactly sure on the year. But
NG lacrosse fans might argue with you just a little bit.
Well, Benji doesn't race stock cars. Then, well, I take that back. He does race stock cars because he races both. But no, I mean, and actually, Hot Rod did race late models. He raced. There's a I can't think of the name now, but anyway, a car owner owned a late model, and they put him in the car. So a Hot Rod would race the late model at Anigo, Lake County Speedway in Anigo. That was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, but he's been racing stock cars pretty much his whole career, and he's one of his most famous cars was back in the early 90s. He raced a Nova, and so you don't see too many Novas out there. And he said I asked him about that, and he raced it until it died. I mean, it had no more life left in it. He got every bit of racing he could out of that car.
Nice. So, Burt, you were right. So, Pete Parker, the first ever WISSOTA late model WISSOTA 100 winner, and that was, you're right, at the Marshfield, Marshfield Super Speedway, I think they called it, the big half mile. Do you remember what year that was?
I want to say 1986.
That is correct. Boy, we got an encyclopedia of knowledge here. Good grief. Good job with that. So, yeah, Pete Parker, 1986. Now, kind of an interesting story. I don't remember. It was in the late 80s. I remember it was actually, I was going down to the 100. My parents weren't going, and actually Puka's parents were going down there. I actually went down there with Puka and his brother Steve, and we went down to Marshfield in the motorhome to the 100. So that was a pretty good time. Big half mile track over there. So that's some pretty good ones right there. Race fans out east, if you have any stories about the folks that he mentioned, hey, put them in the comments. We love to hear them stories. Of course, check out the book, the 51032. That book, actually, my buddy Nick Marich over in Superior, Wisconsin, he got a copy of that. He actually sent me a little video on Facebook. He says, hey, 2 thumbs up. He said the book was excellent. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading that. So now I got a couple of 110s. Okay. So it's episode 110. The first one, Burt, you mentioned a Nova, which is kind of funny because this gal's dad raced a Nova in the WISSOTA Street Stock class, won a bunch of races. We call him the mad scientist over here. Old World Meats he owns. But Nitro Nikki Rizzillo, she ran a modified as number 110, ran pretty well, and she cut her career short and went on to other things. But good old Nitro Nikki, she was racing a modified over in Superior, Hibbing, Proctor, in that area, I guess maybe about 10 years ago. So pretty recently. Hopefully maybe she gets back behind the wheel again. Another 110, Burt. Little quiz for you. Late model driver today. Double duty. Super stock and late model. 5 WISSOTA national titles. 1 in the WISSOTA Street Stock in 1998. And then in the Super Stock, 09, 10, 14, and 18. My arch nemesis in the Super Stock.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to give you another clue. He got second at both the Can-Am clashes here in the late model and at the Fall Classic, both of them to Pat Doherty.
Drawing a blank.
Oh, Burt, you're killing me. You're killing me. Number 2 now. Burt, 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 Diamond Dave Moss.
Oh, okay.
Dave Moss had the Power 110 Super Stock, and we were racing head-to-head for national championships back in, I guess it would have been 04, 05, 06, and 07. So he ran the 110. He was sponsored by Power 110. He's won a lot of races and a lot of different things, but him and I were not really tight. Let's just put it that way around that time. But he's a really good driver. He's continuing to grow in that late model, and he actually almost won the Wissota 100 this year as well. He actually led that, or he didn't lead that. He got into second. He chased down Jimmy Mars and had a shot, but boy, him and I, Burt, we had some battles. Let's just put it that way. And one that I really like, one of my favorite memories of him, and I guarantee it's not his, right, is it would have been I think it was 06, and it was a last lap, last corner slide job, or in 1 and 2 on the last lap. I slid him for the lead, and he dumped me off of turn 3. And that was one of those situations where both of us were off the end. All the cars on the lead lap took the white flag. Nobody really knew what they were going to do for the rule, and they threw the checkered. I got the win. He got DQ'd. They went back to the last completed lap, and that's one of those situations, right, where it makes no sense to me why there's not like a guideline right in the Wissota rule book on how you finish in a situation like that. Because at some tracks, they would have went green, white, checkered, right? And I would have lost the national championship, probably still be in jail today. The fact of the matter is they had a last completed lap rule. I got it, but we had a lot of battles, and he's still getting her done in the 2-car. Now, let's jump over into some number 10s, and I got a few of them here, and I got a few super stock guys. So a super stock driver from the 90s, and he ran mostly Superior Proctor. I think he ran a little bit over in Ashland, but Mike Willie, he's a guy that comes to mind. He won some races over there. I think he sold his last car to Dick Chrisman. You remember that name, don't you, Dick Chrisman?
Sounds familiar.
Yep, he's a late model legend up there. And then another guy that I remember, kind of a local guy to me and Puka, up from the Iron Range, raced over in Hibbing, Billy Dale. He ran the number 10, a silver car, silver and maroon, I believe it was. And I think I have a picture that maybe I can drum up of that one. But I actually, a couple of years back when I was living up in northern Minnesota, I was actually bowling with my dad. We kind of had a little bowling league, and Billy Dale, lo and behold, was on the bowling league on a different team. So we got to talk a few old racing stories. That was pretty fun. Now, I have another one here. 1992 Labor Day Shootout winner. And my buddy Jeff says, UP of Michigan represent, right? They get more than just snow in the UP. They got some good racers from Ironwood, Michigan. Scott Hipsher. This guy could flat out get it done. I think he might have had a little bit bigger motor than us guys back in the day, but he was flat out a hustler. Superior, Ashland, he ran those 2 tracks mostly, but he did come up in 92, my rookie year in the Supers, and he stole a Labor Day Shootout from the Northern guys. Another guy I have here, I made some trips out west. I raced out in Fargo, Grand Forks, Jamestown, Ford number 10 Super Stock. And there's still several people in his family running in the NLRA late model series up there. But Barry Robertson, an old Ford guy up there, that guy could flat out wheel. He ran late models, but I think he kind of hung up the steering wheel a couple years back himself. Another guy I have here, I got this one from my buddy D1 Dustin Dowdy. He says, you have to mention this guy. I wasn't going to forget. I mean, come on. I wasn't going to forget this guy. Another guy from Ladysmith, Wisconsin, Burt. So looking at this, 1986, 92, and 96 Red Clay Classic champion. I remember him hustling the high side, snow falling down up in Ashland at the Red Clay, and him getting it done on the high side. And that number 10, he won the 92 Race of Champions over at the Wissota 100, the 1996 Punky Manor Challenge of Champions, number 2 all-time in Superstock wins at the Cedar Lake Speedway. And he had to add this one in there, but he drove by me and Dave Moss to win. I think it was a Wissota Cup or a Wissota 50. Me and Moss were battling it out, and all of a sudden I look up, and there goes Bishop roaring by both of us on the high side. I got second, but Rich Bishop in the number 10. I don't remember that name. He was kind of from, you're further over east, so I'm not sure if you remember that. But now I have one late model guy Hall of Fame class of 2020 up at the River City Speedway in Grand Forks, over 50 championships to his resume, over 200 wins, probably getting close to 250 wins. Number 10.
Balkan, or is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, Mike Balkan. There you go. So I tell you what, you got them all right today. So Puka, you got your tail whooped. I don't want no excuse to be like, well, I wasn't on the show. Not our problem. You still lost. Burt won. Puka lost. End of story. That's just the way it is. So kind of a deal.
Before we move on, I got a couple of things. This week this just popped into my mind. I missed the number 9 last week that some people won't know him, but they know somebody from his family. He raced hobby stocks and sportsmen at Shawano Speedway. He was number 9, Gary Line.
Okay. I don't remember that name.
Well, think of the last name.
Lance Line?
No. His daughter is in Dennis Erb's pit crew.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Heather. That would be Heather Line.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it'd be Heather. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was
he raced at Shawano Speedway in the hobby stock and sportsman division.
Well, there you go. So that, and she still gets around. She's, I mean, the one man band, but it's also the one woman band.
Right.
She works her tail off. So that's a pretty cool deal.
And then you asked me if I remember any good battles between Parker and MJ. Well, I just remembered this. At one point, they introduced a new engine rule at Shawano Speedway for the late models. They introduced a smaller engine. It was supposed to allow the cars to compete with the larger engine cars. And MJ raced a smaller engine, and he was winning. I don't want to say quite a few, but he was winning his share of features. And Pete Parker actually put up the money to tear MJ's motor down, and it was found to be legal. So
wow, a little bit of rivalry back in the day.
Yeah, I mean they actually went into one of the barns at the fairgrounds and tore it down, and they didn't get the motor back together until like 2:00 in the morning.
Did they talk the rest of the year, or was that kind of the end of that?
I think they still talked. If I remember correctly, MJ said Pete bought him some gaskets for the motor since it was found to be legal.
Nice. Hey, I do have another number 10. So actually a couple of kind of a funny story, but Jay Kuras, I ran against him back in the super stocks, and I stole a couple wins from him where he was leading on the last lap. He still bugs me. I passed him on the last lap to win a couple times. I remember one time they actually, in Hibbing, I was so mad. Like they had him, somebody got into him where he broke, and right at the front straightaway, no wall around the Hibbing Raceway, his car was literally on the outside of the banking, like partway onto the track, and they left him sit there for like 6 laps. And I remember driving wide open. I get almost to his car and turn and rotate, and I'm like, I can't believe they're letting him sit there. And I won. And I remember going up and yelling at the flag band and asking them if he valued people's lives. And that was a very heated debate, leaving cars sit there where cars are driving right at them. Unbelievable. But I think I remember another story. So my buddy Lauren Inman, I've hung around him. I've known him forever, I believe, and he'll clarify if I'm wrong on this. I'll ask him about this. But they had I think Jay Kuras had a number 10 pure stock or street stock or one of the two, and they had a powder puff over at the Proctor Speedway. And I believe, I think it was Lauren, maybe Brian Mankey. There was one of the two. They put a wig on, and they put some pillows in their shirt to kind of have some dress, and they went out there and they actually raced the powder puff. And I'm going to see if maybe Lauren's got pictures of that, because it was one of all them yahoos kind of hung out together, and I can't remember which one it was, but I remember that was at the Proctor Speedway too. So good times over there. So anything else on the number 10s there, Burt, before we switch gears?
No, I think we pretty much covered the number 10s. Tune in next week for 111, because I have a really good one.
Yeah, I have a few 11s. I got a 111. I got an interesting story about a 111 as well. So let's get to the national news, brought to you by our friends over at Blue Line Brews. Of course, if you like coffee, a great cause, because proceeds from this go to fallen officers, families of fallen officers, injured officers. Such a great program. www.bluelinebrews.com. I can't even talk, but check it out. And I know we got some coffee in. My better half drinks a lot more coffee than I do, so I'll have to ask her how it was because I haven't had any yet. But interesting to hear. So thanks a lot, Blue Line Brews, for not only supporting the show, but supporting the men and women that serve this great country so we can do what we do. So, Burt, this week, no race in action, right? But the big news, the PRI show over in Indy, and I talked to some folks that went down there, and they said it was a little light, a few less vendors, but it was still jam-packed. There was still a ton of people. There was still a lot of stuff going on. In fact, I went down there a couple of years ago with Brokings, and there was so much there that literally it was physically impossible to go through the whole thing and actually visit, in like the couple of days that we were there. So it was probably actually better this year, but a little bit of news down there. So a little bit of news, it's silly season, right? A little bit of news from the World of Outlaw late model realm. Burt, what did you hear? Heard a few new drivers maybe to start out the 2022 campaign.
Yeah, drivers are starting to announce what their intentions are for next year. And I think these drivers, their intentions will probably last the entire year. But some of the intentions you have to take with a grain of salt because they actually have until April to make their final decision as to which series they're going to follow. But yeah, English, Max Blair, Gordy Dundaker, and Josh Richards all announced that they'll be following the World of Outlaw tour, and Richards is going to be driving second car from Boom Briggs. So we'll see how that goes. I'm wondering if it's going to kind of be like a satellite team of Rocket, or because of his connections, obviously, with Rocket.
and he got quicker. He looked better at Vegas, and he's probably looking 3 years. So it'll be interesting. And I talked to Brent Larson about this a couple weeks back when I was heading down to the Dome. And you're right. They don't. A lot of times, drivers will make that. Hey, we intend to follow the World of Outlaw deal, and they kind of play the game. Through speed weeks to kind of take advantage of those provisionals and the bonus money and all that. And then it's not, I think it's Farmer City, which is, I think, March or April, to where it's the first time where the Lucas and World of Outlaw shows are on top of each other. That's like the first time they actually have to make a decision, because up until that point, they can run all of Lucas and all of Woo. And a lot of times they'll decide, which one they're doing better in is which one they're going to follow. And I know that some of the drivers that are loyal to the World of Outlaw series said, look, they should have to sign a contract and make that decision sooner, because otherwise they're taking provisionals away. They're taking potential bonus money away from the drivers that really do support that series. And I guess that's the game, right? Their intent, and they're hoping like crazy to have 15, 20 drivers follow the series, right? That's what they're hoping for. And so they're not going to push them drivers away at the beginning of the year.
A prime example of a driver changing his mind was last year when Kyle Strickler was going to follow the Lucas Oil series, but he did so poorly in the early races with Lucas and was doing well in the Outlaw shows, so he decided to follow the Outlaw as well until like mid-season, and then he fell off of that tour also.
Well, and if you remember, Chris Madden tried playing the game on the front side of the year where he kept putting off signing the contract, and it bit him that one night down there where he didn't make the show, but because he didn't sign the contract, he didn't get a provisional, so he didn't get in. So there is that. You kind of gotta, I think there was a certain time where you got to kind of sign your intent, but I think we'll probably hear a lot of news over the next probably 3-4 weeks here. I'm sure we'll hear some more stuff, so it'll be interesting to see. Now, another thing that happened down there is the old Kentucky Colonel, right? He's kind of one of the main guys with the Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series. It sounds to me like he reached out to the World of Outlaw folks, and they're trying to get a unified rules package between World of Outlaw and Lucas Oil Dirt Late Models. All I got to say to that, it's about frickin' time. I mean, what do you think, Burt?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think the National Series should have the same body rules and that sort of thing, so you don't have to change your. I mean, it just promotes drivers racing in your events. I mean, if a driver has to do all sorts of changes to their car to make it legal in a different series, why go through the hassle to make, to do that? Where if everybody has unified rules, it just opens the door for more competitors compete, which is good for the series because that means more money at the back gate and more fans coming in to see those drivers. I did find it interesting. I mean, they made a big deal of this, and I guess they crammed all these people into a small room and and this and that. There's no 6 feet distance, no COVID distancing. But anyway, everything I've read about it, it was curious because they're listing all the different series that were representatives in that room. Even like some of the regional series down in the South, but I didn't see any mention of XR representatives in that meeting. So
I don't know if anybody from XR was at that. I don't know. I would assume somebody was there at the PRI show. I'm not sure, but yeah, I didn't see them on the list. But they, including the droop rule, right? Because the World of Outlaws adopted the droop rule. Lucas Oil had something different, and getting them all on the same page is so good. With Soda, pay attention to this, right? Right there, don't look at it as a fear deal. Like, oh, what if our drivers go somewhere else? The unified rules deal is a huge deal because it opens up the doors for more drivers to support your races. Man, I would love to see the WISSOTA late models kind of get on the same page. Will that happen? I don't know. I have hope that at some point down the road that maybe I can see it heading that direction.
And I guess they also did discuss a uniform tire rule, or some sort of tire rule, but they didn't. No agreement on the tire rule. They're hoping for 2023 for something to do with the tires.
We'll talk more about tires in just a second. But another thing with the World of Outlaws, right? And I talked to Brent Larson, and he said the drivers had kind of banded together, and they said, look, we got Lucas has all this money, XR, right? You got the Castro Flow Racing Night in America. You got all these regional shows. If you want us to follow the World of Outlaw late model series, you need to sharpen your pencil. You need to have more money. And of course, Mark Richards talked about that with more toll money, right? And it sounds like they made an announcement. Jeff sent that over to me. So they're having they're having more bonus money available to the top 12 in the World of Outlaw late model standings that follow the series. In exchange, right, they're going to ask them to do more fan interaction type stuff. Now, I don't know what that's going to be, but essentially they're looking to have more fan interaction. Now, the first question I have for you is, do you remember Ricky Weiss's lack of fan interaction? I don't remember where that was, but he missed the fan interaction. Remember, he had to go to the back or something.
I really don't remember, but yeah, now that you mention it, it's kind of jogging my memory. I know, like, when I go to the USA Nationals, all the drivers who qualify early are on Saturday, they're supposed to go up to the souvenir trailer area and sign autographs. I mean, it's kind of a requirement. And I mean, I've always heard stories of, they had, people from Bloomquist's pit crew and stuff would have to really get on and get up there, because if you don't get up there, you're going to lose your starting spot. So they've kind of done that at the USA Nationals. I don't know if they do that at all of their shows, or if that's what they're going to be doing at all of their shows this year. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, it's, we talk a lot on here about how, NASCAR has lost their way and that sort of thing. And I think one of the issues NASCAR has is their drivers are not accessible anymore. You can go to a dirt late model race, you can get a pit pass, and you can mingle with the drivers. The drivers come up to the souvenir area and they sign autographs for the fans. And, we're in NASCAR now. It's like, these drivers think that they're movie star celebrity status, and they just they don't mingle with the fans like grassroots racing drivers do.
Yeah, you're dead on. I mean, and that's really what I think separates dirt racing from really any other sport out there, is the ability to interact with the stars. And really for little kids, I mean, that's a big deal. When I was a little kid, being able to go down in the pits and talk to the drivers and all that, get pictures with them, that made me fall in love with the sport. I didn't fall in love with the actual cars going around in a circle. I didn't, right? I fell in love with the interaction, and it's good to see them doing that. But I have a question for you in regards to that, right? So would you agree that the World of Outlaws is throwing more money at the drivers?
Yes.
Okay, kinda, not really. Okay.
Okay.
Because that money comes from the tracks, right? So essentially, they're saying, hey, we're gonna have more money available to you, but who's paying for that? The racetracks. So is it concerning? Okay, because ultimately, when you put more money up and the drivers and the teams are getting more money, it's probably better because it keeps them there, it keeps them coming, right? I get it. As a driver, I always needed a check, put it that way, to get to the next race. So having more money available is good for the racer. Is it bad for the promoter? And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. A couple years back, we had scheduled a World of Outlaw late model show at the Grand Rapids Speedway, and of course, COVID hit, right? Well, we were going to do that, but the problem is, we looked at the numbers, looked at the size of the grandstands, the people in the area, and we were going to need an extremely packed house and good sponsor money just to break even. Okay. Now you look at a lot of these smaller market tracks, pretty soon it's 10 grand, it's 12 grand, it's 15 grand, XR 25 grand, right? And now you got more start money, more bonus money. Where is this money coming from, right? Because there's only so many fans that go to these races. And now with all the streaming platforms, which I love, right? Because I love watching them online. I love it. So you have less people going because of streaming. They're not creating more revenue. I mean, is it going to be like the Pittsburgher where it's $50 to get in to watch the race for a single day event? I mean, are they going to keep going back to the well, right? You look at, if they want to put on bigger shows, they're going back to all these sponsors saying, hey, I need more money. I need more money. I need more money. Pretty soon, the sponsors are going to look at this and say, look, enough's enough. We only have so much money to give. So where's this money coming from? What's your thoughts?
Well, and I was going to talk about this later in the show when we talk about our sure bets. Yeah, I mean, next year is just crazy with the number of high paying shows, and the Castro Flow series is adding more shows. You have XR adding more shows, and that's my big question too, is where is this money coming from? I mean, it's just not falling from the sky. And I hope I'm wrong, but I'm afraid that it's not going to go as expected for all of these big paying shows and for all these different series. Competition weeds out. I mean, let's be honest, competition weeds out only the strongest survive. So I don't think, I'm just afraid that, some of these races, I'm afraid that tracks are gonna, it's gonna affect them financially if it's a failure and they're not able to put on these shows in the future, or worse yet, they just go bankrupt and don't put on any shows at all. It could lead to only a select few number of tracks are able to have these high paying shows. So then, yes, I mean, Cedar Lake will probably always have a high paying show. But I mean, what about the other tracks in Wisconsin that put on an outlaw show that pays $10,000 a win? Are are non-outlaw drivers going to just scoff at those shows? And it's like, well, I'm not going to go there for 10 grand to win. I can race at all these other tracks. So I know everybody's really excited about all these high paying shows next year, but I'm a little worried about some of the repercussions of what could happen. And we kind of saw this a little bit this past summer, where races get canceled like 4 days before they're scheduled. I think it's going to get worse this year with the high paying shows. And I mean, it could be like a week ahead of time. It's like, the weather's looking bad. We're not going to be having this show.
Well, I learned something there also from Brent Larson when I spoke with them about that. You mentioned that some of them cancel in advance. So one of the differences last year between the World of Outlaw Late Model Series and the Lucas Oil Late Model Series is the Lucas Oil Series, if they sell one ticket on the ground for that event, if the cars get to the track and they sell one ticket to get in the grandstands, the drivers that follow the series get, I believe it's 50% of their tow money. So the promoter is on the hook. So that's when they look at the weather and they're like, probably not going to happen, and they're canceling it early, which saves the teams a lot of money from traveling to a show that may or may not happen. That was one of my biggest pet peeves racing for points, and just even regionally, was you'd be like, well, hey, we're racing, and you drive 4 or 5 hours to a track, and you'd be like, it's been raining all day. What are you talking about, right? But you had to go, and Lucas has a deal that if the teams drive there and they sell a ticket, they get 50%. Now, the World of Outlaws, that wasn't the case. They could get there, they could cancel the show at any point and be like, sorry, too bad, so sad, you didn't race, you don't get nothing. So that's another thing World of Outlaws is working on right now with the drivers. The drivers are pushing for that, saying, look, you know, you got to use some common sense, right? You know, some of us are eternal optimists. Like, I think it's breaking up. We're going to be okay. You know, it's raining. Like, we're going to be good. We're going to be good, right? I remember calling Cedar Lake Speedway and be like, what's the weather like? Man, it's nice. It ain't rained all day. A little overcast. Literally, I call somebody that's 10 minutes from the track. Man, it's been pouring all day. I'm like, what are you talking about, right? So with the Lucas Oil Series, the drivers are getting some gas money back anyway. And the World of Outlaw drivers are looking at that saying, look, if you're going to force us to drive to these tracks, right, and it looks like rain, you better open up your checkbook because it costs us money to get there. Plus, you know, if they get there and it rains, they're like, we could have went somewhere else. You know, there might have been a 10 grand, 15, 20 grand to win show elsewhere. So that's another big deal there. So you're spot on, Burt. I think it's really interesting because obviously we're all excited. I mean, a lot of opportunity, a lot of big shows that we're going to be able to watch, but everything that happens good has an adverse reaction to it, right? So what's going to be that? Is it going to, you know, if the telltale sign will be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and then even you look at the regional stuff or the local stuff like the Wasota Late Model Challenge Series, you know, the drivers are looking at it going, well, it's $2 grand to win, 200 to start. They want a piece of this. Some of our top tier Wasota late model guys would love the opportunity to race for more money. And, you know, when there's that kind of money, you kind of got to take advantage of it because it may not be here forever. So it'll be interesting.
Wow. I can almost guarantee it's not going to be there forever. I just don't think all these high paying races, I just don't think it's sustainable. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. But I don't think it's sustainable.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. And I guess time will tell. We'll try to be an optimist on this. But Jeff had a question too. What prompted this, right? With the World of Outlaw, with this fan interaction, extra bonus money. I mean, do you believe that was a result, right? So World of Outlaws doesn't have as many high paying shows, right? As Lucas, XR, right? They don't have as many of those shows. Do you think that all those shows, right, that came on and they got all this pressure, do you think that kind of forced their hand to offer up more bonus money for the traveling teams?
I mean, whether they admit it or not, I think it's pretty obvious that, yes, that it forced their hand. Like I said, I mean, competition, I mean, that's the great thing about competition is, you know, the best survive. And if you don't adapt, you're not going to survive. And, you know, the World of Outlaws, they're trying to adapt to the changing landscape of dirt late model racing on the national scene.
Well, even let's talk local scene, right? Back in, I guess it would have been 06 and 07 in our region up here. Of course, it's been Wasota racing for a lot of years, but the DTRA was born, Dirt Track Racing Association, which was Cedar Lake, Superior, Grand Forks, Casson, Mississippi Thunder. I think that might have been it. But
was Arcadia part of that?
They might have been. I can't remember for sure. There was a few, but they came on board, and it's, I mean, you're talking a couple high profile tracks here, and it spurred change, right? Because I ran both series at the time, and I kind of cashed in on that deal, but that was a Goodyear deal. See, that series was all on Goodyears. And what that prompted, little history lesson for all the WISSOTA people out there. So all the tracks right now, Burt, if they sanction a WISSOTA class, they get X amount of dollars per class at the end of the year, Hoosier money. So Hoosier pays them money every single year. So if they have 5 classes, I feel like it might be 1,500 or what. I'm not sure on the number. 1,500 maybe, might be $3,000 total. I don't know exactly the number, right? But the fact is, that was a direct result of competition, right? Because that money did not exist before DTRA. So DTRA comes in, all of a sudden Hoosiers like, whoa, wait a second. We'll put money towards this deal. And now the tracks are getting Hoosier money every year. Now, we all know who pays for that, because the minute they got Hoosier money, the cost of tires went up. So ultimately, the drivers are paying, so it all kind of comes full circle. But that was something that got spurred from that little bit of competition. So you're right, competition can lead to some pretty good things. And, speaking of Hoosier, little troubling news over at PRI, Shannon Rush, if you're in dirt track racing, everybody knows Shannon Rush, but he made the comments down there, and people talked to him and said, 2021 was rough. We all know tire shortages, hard to get tires. He says, I don't believe 2022 is going to be any better. That's not good, right? There sounds like they're short manpower, like 50 people short at the factory. That is a bad deal. So racers right now, just plan ahead that it's going to be tough to get tires. And obviously you get to a certain part of the year, it gets tougher. So, ultimately you're going to want to stash some tires early in the year so you have them for later, so you don't get caught without. But let me ask you this. Do they need to step in, all these series, right? Do they need to step in right now and create some kind of a rule like the Dirt Car Summer Nationals had last year, where they marked all the tires and you got to run those 4 tires on that night? I think they gave you 1 additional right rear, and that was it. They marked the tires. That's it. That's all you get for the night. If you change the left rear, right front, whatever, you're going to the back. It is what it is. And I saw some other big races had the same deal. Is that something they're going to have to look at doing on a regional and local level?
Well, depending on how bad the shortage is. Unfortunately, just flipping the calendar page from 2021 to 2022 isn't going to solve the problem. But if there's shortages, and depending on how bad the shortages are, I think the series are going to have to do something. And especially since, as of right now, you look at the schedules, there's a lot more races scheduled than there was in 2021, at least big time races. And so theoretically, you would think that because of the schedules, there's going to be a lot more tire usage because of the number of races. So if there are shortages and if they get bad, they're going to have to step in and come up with some sort of guidelines and rules to get through the shortages.
Ladies, pay attention, right? Call Dirt Track Supply in Watertown, and for your man for Christmas, get 10 tires, get 20 tires. It's still early enough. You can get them there for Christmas. Get those tires now, stash them, put them away. Maybe don't even tell your man, right? Tell your man in like July when he can't get any tires and he's whining that he can't go racing. Just come up and say, honey, Merry Christmas. I bought these for you at Christmas time and I put them away so you'll be taken care of. He'll love you forever. Okay, take care of your man. But, Cowboy Up fan question of the week on this, right? Let me ask you this. Should they ration tires? Because I'm telling you right now that there are drivers out there that were, I'll talk with WISSOTA Racing, that had no tire shortage, right? Don't hate the player, hate the game, right? They were willing to drive all over the place and get their 1 tire from this guy and 2 from that one and 1 here. There were drivers at the end of the year that had a surplus of tires. They had no issue at all, and that left the drivers that were more on a budget, racing 1 or 2 nights a week, that didn't have the ability to drive all around going, I can't get tires. Should there be a way to where they ration these tires? Is it even possible to do that?
I don't even know if it's possible to ration tires. And unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to get political on our racing show, but I mean, when you start talking rationing and stuff, and you know, you're looking into some serious things, and you know, that's not the country we grew up in, and I mean, unfortunately, that's the situation we're in right now, and hopefully we can get through this where we don't have to ration tires or anything else in this country.
We'll leave that one right there, but you're exactly right. So let's shift gears over there, and we'll talk about our pick'ems. Of course, no racing coming up this week. Holidays coming up, but the one and only, I'm going to have to concede. Our very own Burt Layman, crowned king of the 2020 Pick'ems contest. I was looking at maybe doing some e-racing picks and all that, but I'm just going to throw in the towel. So, Burt, you want to give your acceptance speech to the championship for 2021?
Well, it's been a battle. It's been a fun battle, and you know, Ryan changed the rules a few times through the season, and
I still cost me too.
I still prevailed. Kyle Larson's wife isn't here to shotgun a beer, but let's crack one for the champion.
Nice. I don't have one, but cheers to Burt. There you go. You're champion of 2021. You can shotgun it if you want. Come on, do it.
No, I can't shotgun.
Burt.
No.
All right. Well, here's the deal. Next year, whoever wins got a shotgun a beer. So let's go with this. Speaking of our picks, right? Our sure bets, our lock of the week, of course, brought to you by J. Schmidt Real Estate out in Watertown, South Dakota. Whether it's land, it's commercial, it's residential, whatever it is. You know, I noticed Burt, I saw on Facebook, he got an award. I think he was one of the top realtors in, I think either in his office or whatever in Watertown. So congratulations, Jay, on that. Winners win. That's what we do. But the fact is, been in business for 20 years. It's a huge racing family out in South Dakota. So for racers, by racers, get a hold of J. Schmidt Real Estate, your lock of the week. Burt, what is your sure bet of this week?
Well, I kind of talked about it earlier in the show. You know, I know everybody's excited about all these high-paying shows next year, but my lock of the week is it's not going to be all sunshine and roses for some of these shows.
I think you're spot on. I'm, you know, let's knock on wood that hopefully they all go good, right? Because we want to see good racing. We want to see drivers, teams, and tracks thrive. But it is what it is. But I'm going to kind of go the same direction, right? So we're talking about all this new stuff coming up, and my lock of the week, and love them or hate them, it is what it is. Nothing against them, right? But Barry from XR is going to burn more bridges this year. Maybe not before the year's over, but before the season starts, he will burn more bridges, period. Burt, 50,000 to win XR event scheduled next December, right, at Alltech down in Lake City, Florida, on top of the dome. What the hell is he thinking? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't know, Barry, but it's obvious he's trying to make a statement or make a name for himself or just get buzz, because, I mean, you schedule over a big show once, okay, I made a mistake, I didn't realize, but I mean, this is happening constantly. So because of that, it's happening on purpose. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm not quite sure of his reasoning, but yeah, I mean, we just got done talking about the dome and, you know, how, you know, it just grabbed the racing scene, and now you're going to schedule a big race against it. I mean, and the thing is, the weeks prior to the dome, there were high-paying shows in different areas of the country, and some of them didn't draw hardly any cars. So I'm not quite sure what.
One was in Florida. One was in Florida.
Right.
16 cars, right, for what, 21 or whatever, 26,000 to win. You know, whatever it was, the deal down at Milton, Florida. Man, I don't know. I mean, again, whatever. I mean, we're in a capitalistic society. You know, there's no rules on if you can schedule on top of something or not. But I don't care where the race is, right? He's going to put together a race, right? It's a race at Alltech. They're putting together an event at the Dome. It's two different things, right? It's two different things. It's like having a little county carnival or going to the state fair. It's two. I don't care if he's paying $100,000 to win at that deal. It's not the Dome. I mean, I just don't get it. Makes absolutely no sense. Now, it won't probably affect car count, right? Because they might lose. I don't know.
I mean, actually, I was thinking, Davenport, he may go to the higher paying show. But yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week. I mean, a good majority of the drivers who race at the Dome aren't the upper echelon national drivers. It's more regional, or the drivers who pick and choose where they race. So, yeah, I don't necessarily think it'll affect the car count too much at the Dome, but it's just the idea of scheduling against the Dome.
The only drivers, Burt, that I can see, late models, that were there this year that I can think of off the top of my head that would scratch the Dome and go there, the two that come to mind would be Jonathan Davenport and RTK.
Yeah.
Other than those two, I don't think any of the other drivers are going to go down there. I don't see it happening, because it's a spectacle. I mean, it's big. This is big time. And I'm sorry, right? I got nothing against Barry, right? I know Barry a little bit. I don't got nothing against him. But when you look at the group of people putting together the event at the Dome, they're more established, right? When you got Rigsby and you got Cody Sommer and you got Ben Shelton, you got that whole team of people putting together that event. It is what it is. Maybe they'll both be successful, and at the end of the day, more drivers will have an opportunity to make some money, and the tracks both events will do good, maybe. But I don't understand why a person would do that. Like you said, I think he's trying to make a statement. Hey, I'm here. I can shove my weight around. I don't know, but I don't know. Good or bad? Would you say that's a good or bad idea, scheduling against the Dome?
I think it's a bad idea. I mean, it seems like, and like I said, I don't know Barry. I never met Barry. I never talked to Barry. So, I don't have anything personal against him. It almost seems like, when you start something, I mean, we had this discussion of, is the Dome a crown jewel? And one of the reasons we say it's not is because it hasn't been an event long enough. And it almost seems like XR wants to be a top player in the industry, and they want to skip the portion of putting in the time and effort to establish a brand, racing wise. I mean, he has a brand for streaming. There's no doubt about that. But as far as promoting races, he hasn't necessarily put in the amount of time that other series have put in. It seems like XR wants to skip that and just be a player right away.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So that was a big announcement. XR scheduling Alltech against the Dome. Well, let's get to the last lap, of course, brought to you by Zuli's Race Engines. Get a hold of Frank. It's that time of year. We're closing in on Christmas. Ladies, get your man an engine. Get a hold of him. Doesn't matter what class it is. He can build it. They've been building winning engines for quite a while now. National championships under their belt. And tell you what, this year, Burt, we talked about it all year long. Kind of the winners coming out with Zuli Race Engines. Just jump on his Facebook page, Zuli's Race Engines, and just kind of look through there throughout the season. They won a pile of races. So partner up with them. They'll take good care of you. But talking about XR, right, we'll kind of start here. A little bit of a rumor, right? And keep your eyes open, right? I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag where, but rumor has it that established Minnesota dirt track might be hosting an XR event right around USA Nationals time. So keep an eye on that. That's kind of the word on the street right now. Kind of watch for that. It sounds like they're kind of in the final dealings to kind of put that together, but XR moving in and putting on another show that's not on the schedule yet. So stay tuned. But speaking of shows, let's talk about the Hell Tour. they condensed their schedule for 2022. Burt, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea. I'm guessing that Puka would really like this idea because he was one of the complaints he had this year was the break that the Hell Tour had once all the crown jewels were week after week after week. So, I mean, I think it gets back to the original roots and idea of the Hell Tour because, I mean, the Hell Tour was X number of races and X number of days. There is no break. That's why it's called the Hell Tour. You have to go through hell to win this tour. And they're kind of returning more towards that.
Yeah, I like it. 28 shows, it looks like, in 40 days, starting June 14th at Kankakee in Illinois, ends July 23rd at the Merritt Speedway in Michigan. And I was looking at the schedule there, Burt, and I just put two and two together. So the night before the finale, they're at Tri-City Speedway in Auburn, Michigan. And I'm like, wait a second, I thought that was asphalt, right? Because literally back in the 80s, my dad, my mom, myself went with my uncle, who is now passed, lived down in Michigan. We went to the Merritt Speedway to a dirt race, but we also went to Tri-City to an asphalt race. And I remember Ed Howe, all you dirt legends remember how they build parts now, but Ed Howe was there on the asphalt track. And I did a little research there. So in 2004, they shut the doors and tore all the pavement off of there, right? And then it just basically it sat idle. In 2009, somebody purchased the track and they completely reconfigured it and came out with a 3/8 mile dirt track in 2011. So I'm like, that is crazy, because I'm kind of looking back, I'm like, am I missing something here? I thought that was asphalt, but there you go. There is hope, right? You know, get rid of all these old asphalt tracks, peel that crap off the top of them, make them dirt tracks. That's what we all want to see. So there's a win right there, Burt, for the dirt track fans, getting rid of an asphalt track. So another thing, Prairie Dirt Classic. Did you see the news? I'm pretty excited about that. Looks like a pretty good program they got going on over at Fairbury. I guess it'd be the weekend before the USA Nationals. What do you see there?
Are you talking about the lap money?
Yeah, 50-50-50 they're doing. So, yeah, basically, are you familiar with how that all works? Or
I know they're selling tickets because a fan has a chance to win, what, $50,000?
Yep.
But it's like $1,000 a ticket, isn't it?
It's $1,000 a ticket, which is crazy. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but you know, it probably will, because there's some other stuff. They're getting a VIP deal and they're getting some other experiences along with it. But it's $50,000 to win. It's $50,000 in lap money. So as we know, that's 100 laps. What is that? $500? Is that right? Yeah, that'd be $500 a lap. So they're getting $500 for every lap led. $500 a lap. I've seen lap money of $50 a lap, but $500 to lead a lap. So it's $100,000 to win potential if you lead green to checkered. And then one of those fans are going to draw a ticket out. One lucky fan is going to walk away with $50,000 in cold, hard cash. Need not be present to win. So if you buy that $1,000 ticket, Burt, you don't even have to be there. You can watch online, hear them announce your name, and shotgun one of them Miller Lights and get it done, right? So pretty exciting stuff over at Falls. And over in your neck of the woods, the Dirt Kings series, big announcement coming from Eastern Wisconsin. What happened with the Dirt Kings?
Yeah, they have a new title sponsor for the 2022 season. Now, it's WABAM. I mean, is it
pronounced? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know if it's pronounced WABAM, but it's a cleaning products company, from my understanding. So it's good to see them jump on board and get involved as a title sponsor for the Dirt Kings. So looking forward to that next summer.
Yeah, congratulations to Jason there on solidifying a new title sponsor for the series. You know, that series has been fun to watch. They put on some great races. A little sadness here this week for us old diehard fans. 4-time Indy 500 winner, Al Unser Sr., passed away at 82. I think it was cancer finally got him. And but the Unser name, you know, back in the day before all the streaming platforms, all you young bucks watching the show, we didn't get to watch racing online, right? We get to watch NASCAR and IndyCar. That's all we got to watch, right? And the Unsers were synonymous with winning, the Andretti's, the Unsers, and that was kind of sad to see.
And talking about, the Unsers are synonymous with IndyCar racing, but you're talking about streaming. Like the Indy 500, you couldn't even watch that live because they played it on tape delay at night. So they ran the race in the afternoon, but you couldn't watch it until the evening.
But there wasn't Facebook for everybody to wreck it for
you.
True,
very true.
So it wasn't a big deal. It's not like people were texting and going, "Hey, guess who won the Indy 500?" It's like, I don't know. People didn't have texting, so it was kind of a unique deal. You could have tape delayed races back then, where literally most of the country had no idea what in the world was going on because it wasn't accessible information. Boy, the times have changed. Everything happens so fast. And more sad news: Northern Illinois late model driver Victor Benedetto passed away at the age of 36 of COVID. And, that one kind of hits me a little bit. I got to know Victor. I pit for, I shouldn't say I pit for him because I don't turn wrenches very often. He'll clear me up on that. But my buddy Dave Dulciak, who won the Street Stock Championship over at Sycamore, he was really good buddies with Victor. And every time I was down in the pits down there, Victor would stop by. He raced, when the late models were there, he raced. He worked at old pace, and I got to know him just a little bit. He was always kind of fun and joking around. Pretty fun to be around. Didn't really take it, he wasn't like a serious guy, just a fun guy. And what's crazy is Halloween, we had the championship party over at Dave's, and Victor was there. So I got to see him on Halloween, and it was literally only a couple days later where COVID hit him. So more than likely something happened in that time period right there, and then he ended up going to the hospital and just never seemed to recover. So a tough break there. Thoughts and prayers go out to the family of and friends of Victor Benedetto, and just way too young. 36. It's just kind of a heartbreaker.
Yeah, that's way too young.
It's terrible. And just one more shout out, to Joe, that 5:10:32 book, right? Burt, did you finally finish it? You got all the way through that deal, didn't you?
Yeah.
Tell us again how we can get that book.
Joe Vertigan has a page on Facebook. I think it's called. I think if you type in 5:10:32, that should be one of the options that pops up, and you can order, or you can go to. I'm sure you can go to joevertigan.com. He has a website. I keep forgetting he has a website. So yeah, I'm sure you can order it off of his website, joevertigan.com. Joe's held 3 book signings so far, and I've been to every one of them. I'm like a groupie. I like going just because you meet race fans there, so you talk racing. Right. And last Thursday, I was in the area of the Dirt Kings champion Nick Avalanche at a bar that Nick's father's, Terry Avalanche's parents, used to own at one point. And so that was fun being there. And 2 nights prior to that, I was at a bar that sponsored MJ McBride for many years in Shawano. So it's just cool to get out and mingle, and when there's snow on the ground, and talk racing.
Bert, I'm getting concerned. You're going to all these bars, you're cracking the beer on the show, and I'm not really sure. We're getting
I guess that's one thing that happens when you get divorced. You get to do some of those other things.
and we're all dirt track racers. I don't think there's too many dirt track fans looking at it going, "Man, I can't believe you cracked the beer." They're like, "Hell yeah. Come on, you got to smash that thing. Come on, get her done," right? Kyle Larson's wife is showing you up, right? So with that said, that's episode number 110 in the books. Always a pleasure talking racing. One more week. We have a Christmas episode coming up next week, so we're excited for that. But Burt, thanks for coming on. Puka, you lost. Burt won. Just is what it is. No excuses on that one. I'm Ryan Aho. That's the Burt Layman. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.